Hello friends, myself Shriram. Now we have seen usage of FGTS, and that time I told that we are going to basically make use of FGTS and where it's a buffered way. That means you have a better control than using it using GetS. And that time I told the difference with respect to GetS and FGTS. However, that particular time we have read it from a file, okay, and that's what essentially we have done. Now what we would like to do is instead of reading from a file, we would like to basically take multiple lines of input from the user, okay, because that particular time we controlled it through when we are reading as a from a file, okay. So that's not a that was a one case, okay. Now what we want is you want to basically use fgetS. Okay, so we are going to rely on fgetS because it's a buffered one. So here we are going to do that. We know now that we are going to use buffer approach. And the important point is now you want to take multiple inputs from multiple lines, essentially from multiple lines or multiple strings. You can say multiple lines from as input, okay, as input, not from the file. Okay, that's very important now. So how do you do that? So obviously we are going to use buffer because it's essentially it's a buffered approach, okay. Now you are going to ask user, you enter multiple lines, okay. It's not a big string, okay, that's very important. Now it's not just a string, so you want to have multiple lines from user. So to do that, now we are going to use this function once again, which is fgetS. Okay, so that's a function. And now here the point I just wanted to highlight is obviously you provide buffer, you provide the count, so that we controlled even in our earlier video. Now here this file stream is what now I will not provide fp. Why? Because normally we have habit of using fopen, and then fopen was obviously pointed to structure of a file, which essentially is a capital file file, and we used to do that. Now it's not going to be the case, but we are going to provide something what it is called as stdin. stdin essentially is what? Here you will see all the time we are including stdio.h. That means a standard input output. I is for input, O is for output. So that means if I want to provide that internally within C or as part of C compiler or overall C system, essentially there is something called as stdin, which is standard input. So that also is implemented internally, and using that you can provide input. So if you provide that as a thing, then obviously your job is done. So how do you do that? So fgetS, and then you will have buffer. Then you want to have say 79 characters in one particular go, and then you will provide here stdin. You will see this has come stdin. Okay, so I am going to use stdin. Okay, now how do you do that? Obviously it will be in loop. Why? Because now you want to read multiple lines. Okay, so you don't you don't worry about how many lines now user is going to enter. So to do handle that, obviously you need to write everything in a while loop. So you can simply say while fgetS, and then you simply use this in a loop. That means this fgetS, either it will be null, because we have seen that either you can equal to null. That means basically null is internally 0, and I have told you like it basically evaluates to false. Okay, that is logical false at the logical level, and that's the way typically while loop works. So either we could use equal to null, or it doesn't matter, it's one and the same thing. Okay, we can skip it. Okay, and then we can use this curly bracket, and in the curly bracket we will now what we will do is we will check what. So we will check the character that user will enter, because we need to now stop. I don't have any mechanism to stop. So what we should do is now the first character that user will enter in any buffer, like you will have multiple lines keep on doing. So moment user enters, basically like just presses an enter button, then that's it. Okay, so how do you do that? So you are going to now check this particular buffer 0 entry, that means whether it is entered as \n, that is the enter. Okay, so if you just do that, so here let me just put a comment, just pressing enter, so enter button. So that is the way typically it is going to stop. We are going to use this as a technique. So we will consider it break, that means it will come out of the loop, we are done. And then if it is not if it is not \n, then it's going to print. So what it is going to print? Essentially it is going to print whatever is there in the buffer. So percentage is and then buff. So we are asking user to enter multiple lines. That's the first thing, and then we have a loop where which is a fgetS, and then you check whether that when you say the enter is pressed, that means that particular 0th entry will be backslash, and then obviously you are done. Okay, so let's continue now here. So let's execute. So enter multiple lines. So let me just enter multiple lines in the sense I'll keep on entering some big thing. Okay, hi, I am in India doing say file activity using C language. So let me just, I have typed enough, I believe so. So let me just put this one, and then I will use some, because otherwise it's, so I'm just putting all this, and then once again let me put here, hello, I am interested in drinking coffee. After program is working. So something I have just kept, and once again I will put some. Okay, now let me enter. You see this has done. Okay, it has come here. You can see this. It has come. Hi, whatever, and then you can see this. Hi, I'm in India and all that. You can see all these multiple lines have come. So essentially, you entered multiple lines, and then just enter. Basically, ensure that it came out, and till that whatever you entered into the buffer, all that thing came up. It's not like 79. So at one stroke, obviously it handled 79. Then automatically it kept on doing that as part of the program itself. So that's the way typically this thing works. So this is very interesting when you want to handle multiple lines and when you make use of fgetS, which is much better than using a getS. Why? Because getS doesn't have control. So here there is a control, and that clogging issue which I mentioned earlier also, once again I am repeating. So clogging, memory clogging, essentially mem clogging gets eliminated using fgetS over getS. So that's a very important point I just wanted to highlight. Okay, now what we can do is once we are done with this, then we can basically use getS if I want to do this. Okay, so we can basically try doing this getS, and let's see how it works. Okay, so just for the sake of academic point of view, we can always do this. Okay, so let's do this. So I'll copy this code, or okay, so we will copy this code, and so I will copy this code. Okay, now what I will do is I will not rely on getS, but I am going to use getS. Okay, so obviously these parameters are not required. Why? Because getS by default takes it from the stdin, that is what we typically provide as the keyboard input. Okay, then once again we are going to check whether there is a valid input. So to do that we will use strlen. Now I could first do strlen on a user temporary variable and can do that, or right now I am not going to do that because now we have done good amount of programming. So I simply use strlen, and whether it is greater than 0, that's it. Okay, that means there is a, so you basically are now going to enter, and now what we now need to do is we will basically use printf here. Why? Because now you, whatever the input is coming, you are just typing in. Okay, and then as part of this else break, you can always save this to the file also, which we now know. Okay, so not a big issue. Right now I'm just going to print. Okay, so here now you see I'm not using fgetS, and I'm simply using some buffer, and we just enter, and stop taking input. Okay, or you can save it to the file if you don't want to print to the screen. Okay, so let's now execute this code. So you can see the difference now. I am using getS, not fgetS. Okay, and I'm just getting in, and then only when you just enter, then once you enter, it is done. Okay, so that's it. Okay, so enter multiple lines. So let me just enter multiple lines. I'll enter it. Okay, so you can see this just by entering, it has come out. Okay, and then that's it. It has come out after entering. So that's the difference essentially, because now you don't have any control. You are not controlling it through buffer. So you are just, there is a chance that it may not work in some random situation. So better is always use fgetS, and that's the way typically it will work. So let me now once again show this usage of fgetS rather than plain getS. Once again I am just repeating this, and we will enter multiple lines. So this is, I believe, better. Yeah, so you can see this, and then so overall behavior looks simple, rather it looks the same. Okay, simple and same obviously. Okay, but here now there is a better control, because 79 is what you are controlling. Here absolutely there is nothing. Okay, so just an enter and that's it. So that's the way this typically this string standard input output, as well as if you just make use of getS, then how it will work. So that's again an interesting thing, and that's what we actually learned as part of this video. Thank you.